when did you get your citizenship, Ellis? What year? You got it before you went to New York then? You already had it? And you've been sworn, did you get sworn in Raleigh? To then take an exam, I guess. Tell us something about the cases you've handled during your legal career. What kind of cases did you handle? Beginning and later on, and yeah, what kind of law cases did you handle? Tell us something about some of your cases. Yeah. What case is most memorable in your memory? What case you remember the most about and you're the proudest of? Do you have a pretty good record on those? Tell us some of the judges that you appeared before from the time you started practicing law up until now. But you and Wright Dixon kind of buttered up to him though, didn't you? Didn't you and Wright Dixon used to kind of butter up to him a little bit? In fact, y'all had a race to see who would get to the judges first when they come to town, didn't you? You tried many cases before Clausen Williams? You don't want what? What'd you do? Did you enjoy criminal cases most or civil cases?
Well, I tried criminal cases most again, I began to feel civil cases because more, more money in civil cases than criminal cases. You can take one civil case and take care of about $6 million, take care of about criminal cases you see.
What judges really stand out in your memory? And
Well, Random Matter stands out more than anybody else.
And how do you compare him to the ones we have today?
Well, most of the ones we have today I haven't seen before in 3 years.
But how do you compare him to the ones that you had 3 years ago?
Well,
Now, do you think the judges back when you started and reached your maturity and all,
yeah,
how do you compare them to the more modern judges?
I didn't have much, my last 3 years practicing law. Didn't do much practice. I went to work this one.
What advice would you give a young lawyer today to get into the practice? I mean, what do you think he ought to strive for more than anything else?
Whether civil or criminal.
Either way, either way.
I was close. I done a lot of criminal work, but I enjoyed more practicing civil than I did criminal. I didn't worry about the civil case too much. I worried about them that I studied them and know where I'm going and where I'm coming from. But criminal cases, I get it in my head. If I'm guilty, that was trying to bring him out. Of course, we say I want to plead my guilty. I usually don't do it anyway. I have to plead my guilty. No, you can't plead guilty when you're not plead guilty. And that always with it. But doing you take what you can get.
Name some of the lawyers that you practiced with and against during your lifetime that stand out in your memory as some of the better lawyers you worked with.
Well, that's hard to do. Really, my memory is not too good in that category.
Well, we all get to that point, don't we? John and I have that trouble now.
say has been the most satisfying thing to you about having spent your long career practicing law?
Well, the most satisfying thing to me was not money making. A couple of times, it appeared as if, one time there was a little white kid, he was about 18, 19 years old, and he had
struck that plea as a plea of not guilty?
Yeah. He'd be guilty.
Uh,
I didn't beat him guilty, and I didn't beat him up. I just asked him to spoke about that in civil society. When all this kid needed was a finger, hold on to him and pull him out. They set it up on the rock and sent it to me. And I got through everybody in the court for the judge will reprimand me.
What did the judge do? What was his order?
He told her to put, he said, put, Madam Clerk, strike that guilty plea out. Court find you not guilty. Now your so-called self-appointed lawyer thinks you an angel. But I think you will be court for 6 months after I got rid of my speech society.
Mm-hmm.
Kid, he's trying to move.
Good.
Tell me not guilty.
Ellis, let me ask you one thing. You spent your life in the courtroom. Did you ever want to be a judge?
I walked in.
Did you ever want to be a judge? Did you ever want to sit on the bench as a judge?
I never sat on it, but the judge criticized me.
Well, you didn't care to ever be one?
No,
A lot of lawyers of our generation all used to want to be a judge, and I just wondered if you ever wanted to be one.
no.
You preferred to be an advocate all the time. Right. Right.
I didn't want that responsibility.
Ellis, in the trial of cases, and John just pointed out, you spent most of your legal career in the courtroom. What thread of mistake did you see a lot of lawyers make? What was the most glaring or common mistake a lot of lawyers made, if any?
Of not knowing what that case was all about.
Not knowing what the case was about?
They think they do, but they didn't. They didn't go to the depth of the case, what's it all about, before they try to make their own decision. So I make my decision till I find out. They didn't look at them. I don't, most of the time, I don't pay too much attention to what they tell me. I try to, what would I do? And, lawyer makes a mistake, they take what the client tells you 100% true. And that's not true. They'll dig a little bit, they'll find it is not.
Their own client.
Yeah. They was trying to hide things here. Once you open up the door, I'm going to defend it. I don't care how hard boy, you're going to realize that the lawyer you're talking to is not as big a fool as you think he is. If you think you're a fool, you still think the defendant thinks you're a bigger one than you think he is.
You were in the courtroom over 60 years.
Yeah.
Tell us something about some of the lawyers that you thought were the best lawyers that you tried cases against or with or however.
Like in criminal cases, that's where the best in my opinion. You know, they tried to give us these criminal cases, but one of the reasons was the lawyer made the biggest mistake. Trying
limb and see if you could work your way back to the trunk too, didn't he? He really did. But he was a good judge, good judge. How about Bill Bickett? Did you have much experience with Bill Bickett when he was prosecuting?
He probably did. Yeah, we didn't know Washington. He had a habit. He would try to bring me right over to his sense. He said to the men over this. He had a habit, he knows he's not going to push you over his home. He was, he was gone to the record. He had a habit, which you know, he had his record, kind of looked at him and said, habit.
That's the record right there. Good. Let's see, do you remember being in the S&W when Mordecai was praising, Judge Mordecai was praising Bill Bickett? I guess did he stop being solicitor, gonna be judge or something? Yeah, I think Judge Mordecai saw himself in the, they had the big old mirrors all around the mezzanine up in the S&W. And he saw himself in those mirrors and he started making gestures and he forgot all about Bill Bickett. Bar meeting up there one time. I think about the time that Bill Bickett was becoming judge, I believe they were honoring him for having been such a good solicitor. It's interesting, you got your citizenship in 1930. First time I saw an immigration hearing in federal court in Raleigh, you were the president of the Wake County Bar Association and you were presiding. He was presiding at the ceremonies in federal court. He did that several times, I think. Remember that? I don't even know who the judge were. It was Don Gillum, maybe Don Gillum. Yeah. Probably Don Gillum, Judge Gillum, I guess. You try many cases before Judge Gillum?
Yeah, when Judge Gillum got on the United States District Court, I was on the service. When I came out of the service, I tried my first case. I was very legitimate. But I found out I was sued, and I didn't get the best judge that I had. And the judge was got the case before me, got it way down. I was devil with a home from my head. He made a good judge.
What did you?
Yeah, excellent judge.
Tell us about being in service. We hadn't even asked you about that. When were you in service? Second World War? What branch? Medical branch? serve? How long were you in?
They had it 2 years and 8 months. This year was 13 months.
18 months. You remember every day.
I saw when I walked out. I started to go back in. I said, "Fool, you better stay where you are. You better keep for another 6 months to get you out."
What do you think of the ethics of lawyers when you started compared to 3 years ago when you stopped practicing? What do you think the ethics of lawyers gotten better, worse, or indifferent, or what?
Well, you had it both ways. You had it with lawyers that were second of each other, while the other ones should have some with supplements. It's not a one-sided debate. Some lawyers shouldn't care what they do. If they feel good enough fee. Unfortunately, sometimes we used to have court in the courthouse. They get to talk about the police. I don't care what I do. That's what I mean, though. Some say they do. Who fix it? I think you try to do all you got. Okay, and say, I find a lot of what they say, what they do, what's really done. That's their fault. They didn't get the fee you wanted. That's it.
Too late. Too late. You got to go on and represent them, opinion.
That's too late.
And you did. You did that. I saw you in action. You would do that.
I was saying, you know, so I'm not going to too much. I just couldn't tell, couldn't hesitate about it. Who fixes the you and him arguing with the show for you own everything you've got.
Ellis, if a young lawyer came to you now, just starting out, and you had a chance to talk to him and tell him how he ought to conduct himself, what would you tell him?
I tell him condition says what he would be like, but the lawyer would be representing him, does he? That would be so that I would, in my court, if he didn't look at each other, my court, probably everything I got, not hesitate about it.
John, you got some
It's
more
too late
questions?
to,
No,
it's too late to fix your food by the type of fix you do. By taking a position where I didn't get much fee and I didn't spend a lot of time on it.
How's Elizabeth, your wife?
She's great. You know,
And how many nieces and nephews do you have in Raleigh? You got a bunch, haven't you?
I had one niece over there that has 9 children.
Martha was 18.
Yeah,
Now, is she the daughter of one of your brothers?
yeah. The other one, brother, oldest brother.
She grew up in Scotland Neck, is that right?
Huh?
Did she grow up in Scotland Neck? Or don't you have a connection with Scotland Neck, where Joe Branch was from? Scotland Neck, North Carolina, is that where Martha was from?
No, that's
Did she grow up in Smithfield? Oh, I see. She lived in Smithfield all her life then.
yeah, she had a mother. She moved over there to Wilson. She married.
your immediate junior at the bar? It's hard to think of, isn't it? Of course, Howard Manning getting on up there, but he's, you got him outstripped a right good while.
He's just, what, 81 or 2? 81, or 2, no more than 82, I don't think.
I think that's about right. He's probably 82.
Armstead's 80, isn't he?
Armstead, Charlie Young,
Charlie's 80, yeah.
Buck Harris, I guess. I guess
Oh,
Buck.
yeah,
And,
Buck.
Yeah, Buck was,
Yeah, he's above 80, yeah.
I imagine Cheshire getting on up there close, isn't he?
Cheshire's right at 80, yeah.
but that's, Joe Cheshire retired.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think he
Yeah,
goes.
he has.
I don't think he goes off anymore. And,
No.
of course, Buck hadn't for some time, and I'm not sure Sam Leaguer goes anymore.
Is that right?
I'm not sure. But it sure has been nice to see you, and we appreciate this very much.
Very nice talking to you.
I miss seeing you at the bar barbecues like we used to have. We used to have some good times.
Yeah, we had these, he's gone by.
I'll never forget the first time I went out to Morgan's cabin. Charlie and Joe sent me out